Whoa, damn, it's loud. Hey, everybody. Whoa, there we go. Hey, everybody, this is Carl from Carl's Opinion. Just going to say hi, and we are live. We're in the field, so a little bit goofy today, so I apologize. And sorry for getting started late here. And we're going to have our first interview starting right now. We're live at the Nevada State and Silver State Chili Cook-Off. And let's make sure we got everybody, make sure I'm on. Let's see. And it looks like I'm giving out audio, so it looks like everybody's listening to me at least. Camera's good, and we should be okay. All right, so let's take a look. All right, hey, there you go. Hey, Kyle, how you doing there, Kyle, and Little Rock and Roro? How you guys doing? All right, we're going to do our first interview, so I'm going to cut away to camera. Hey, what's your name?
My name is Marcus.
Marcus. All right, we got a live interview here from the in Pahrump, Nevada, from the Silver State, Nevada State Chili Kickoff, and we're going to be having Marcus here. Let's see, let me cut over here. All right, Marcus, why don't you just test the mic for me? Just go test 1, 2 for me.
Test 1, 2.
All right, you are on, Marcus. Anyway, I was discussing off camera a little. We were having a little conversation, Marcus and I. We were discussing politics. Marcus is independent, I would assume. Is that fair to say, Marcus?
Yes.
Okay, and obviously I'm a conservative Republican. So Marcus was bringing up a good point. He was saying that we need to have balance in what we do here. And let's see, let me move my camera because it looks like I'm a little bit off to the left here. Let me see. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Marcus was saying we need to have balance, have a two-party system. Marcus, why do you think we need to have a strong two-party system in this country?
We need a strong two-party system simply because, things can become polarized. You let one thing go all the way one way, it can go too far. It can get out of hand. We need a strong two-party system in this country because the parties that we have, they balance each other's out in their philosophical approaches. If you think about it, if we allowed, let's say, the Democrats full reign of the country, and they became the only party that there was, I actually potentially see that leading to anarchy simply for a lot of the, how they approach different situations, different issues that we deal with in our nation. And it's the same way, vice versa, when you flip it to the Republican side. Unchecked, they believe in having a strong military, a strong offensive front, a strong border security, strong, it creates a rigid country, and it actually makes us more of a threat and a target. We need that fluidity, we need that balance in this country.
Actually, a really good point. Let me just type something in real quick here, Marcus, to let everybody know we're on. And you can see here, hold on. Here. Oh, if I can type. If I can actually type, here we go. There we go. Boom. All right. Yeah. Well, actually, right now we have the Republicans in the White House. That's Donald Trump, and then we have Democrats controlling one branch, one chamber of the legislative branch, namely the House, and Republicans control the Senate. How do you think that is as far as balancing out? How do you think that's working out right now?
I don't think it is, simply because, not a whole lot is getting done in our government right now. We just came out of a shutdown not that long ago. The Democrats may have control of the House, and the Senate may be under the control of the Republicans, and we may have the Republican president, but there's a whole lot of disagreement, going on amongst, especially our senators and representatives. And then on top of that, even those bills that our legislature does push through, if the president doesn't agree with them, or if they stand in the way of his immediate plans, he'll automatically veto them or threaten vetoes. And, he's threatening this emergency declaration for the wall. It's just, right now our system is it feels broken, like it's not working the way it's supposed to. People are too against each other.
I mean, this is a big question because, I mean, I don't have an answer for it, but I'm curious. You got any ideas on any solutions? Because I surely don't have any. But do you have any ideas on any solutions on that, on how we can try to get people working back together again? Like back in the '80s, we had Ronald Reagan was the president, and Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House. Tip O'Neill was a super liberal, Ronald Reagan was super conservative, but they got a lot of stuff done.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean they worked together.
Yes.
I mean, do you have any idea? Because again, I have none. Do you have any idea on how you think we can get back to the time when, no matter how conservative or liberal one party was, they still work together? You think we have any ideas on how you think we can get that done?
Well, really that needs to happen on a basis, and the people in our government, with them individually, they need to learn to see the issue from the other side's point of view. And they need to learn to let go of their prejudices and their biases. Their bias. A lot of times bias stands in the way, and the things that we were brought up to believe, that things, this should work that way. Like right now, one of the biggest issues in our country is border security.
Right.
Donald Trump and his base and a good number of Republicans, they believe that we should put up this strong border wall to stop drug trafficking and to stop illegal immigration into our country. Now, they also accuse the Democrats of wanting some type of open border policy. That's what they want. They want people to just be able to come over. But that's not, from my understanding, being a third party, being someone from the outside looking in, neither side is really saying what the other side is saying.
And then the only problem is when you get some leading Democrats that, even though nobody can come out and say we want open borders because they know they'll never get elected. But when you have like Beto O'Rourke, and I don't think he's going to do anything in the Democratic Party. I think Kamala Harris and Joe Biden will kick his ass like he wasn't standing there, to be honest with you. But we have Beto O'Rourke down in El Paso, and he's talking to Chris Hayes from MSNBC, and he goes, "Hey, would you like to see this wall taken down?" And Beto goes, "Yes, I'd like to see this wall taken down." And it's like the fence, the one that's up right now, and he's like, "Well, damn it, man." I mean, if you don't want to build any new ones, okay, but don't be taking the ones that are up right now.
I mean, but at the same time, though, if you look at it, they're ineffectual.
No, they actually work. The numbers show that where you have one, yeah, they go around them. But the point is, if you had one going all the way across, there wouldn't be nowhere to go around. I mean, they can look. If you put up a friend of mine had a saying one time. You put up a fence. Yeah, you can climb over it, but maybe it's just easier to go around, or maybe it's just easier not to climb over it. So, I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. Okay, I mean, if I want to get into this country and I'm over there, and if there's a fence,
find a way.
I'm gonna get into this country.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care. But it does. The main thing is it's like triple thing. You need people, technology, and then like barriers. And it helps the Border Patrol guys because it gives them a couple of seconds when they see some guy climbing over the fence. Gives them a couple of seconds to kind of think about it because you don't know if it's like a cartel member or just some guy looking for a job. Or unfortunately, a guy looking for a job who's got some drugs on him because the cartel says, you know how that works down there. Cartel says, you're taking these drugs across the border. You say no, well, your friend gets his legs chopped off, and then you're taking the drugs across the border. So, I mean, it gives the Border Patrol guys, just a couple of seconds just to, okay, up, guy coming over the fence, okay, he looks like a migrant, doesn't look like a drug dealer, looks like a regular dude, like a family, just wants a job. So, but then they can make that determination, like, okay, we don't have to go, like, get scared. We can, like, just say, hey, come here,
Well, there's also this this thing that Republicans, they love to harp on this drug trafficking issue, and that's one of the biggest reasons why they push for border security. But the thing is, I feel like many of them really have a very partial understanding of how the drug trade actually works.
Well, no, most of the drugs come through the port of entry. But the problem with that number, though, is that it's most of the drugs that are interdicted come through the port of entry. In other words, we catch. So if drugs are coming, in other words, if we don't interdict the drugs that are not coming through the port of entry, if we don't interdict the drugs just along the border, well, we don't know. But it's easier to detect them at the port of entry. That's where they have all the technology, the dogs, and all the equipment. Now, some guy's coming, over the fence, and he's, going up, some place to a van. You don't know if you don't know how much gets through. You know how much you interdict. So it's easier to interdict. So the numbers for interdiction are going to be higher at the port of entry than they would be out in the field.
But I feel like a more effective focus for maybe slowing down drug trafficking would be to maybe have some type of initiative to do more to reach out to the people who have drug problems over here. It's all about supply and demand. If there's a demand for drugs, there's going to be a supply. And we have lots of people over here who use cocaine, who use heroin, who use all these serious hard drugs.
Meth.
Meth is a big one.
We're in Nye County. Meth is a big one out here in Nye County. Heroin is getting bigger too, unfortunately. Yeah.
So it's just like we need more. We need to do more here. We need to focus on what we can do here to change what's in here.
Right.
In order to make a effective, lasting change. Slapping up a wall over the border it's not gonna stop drugs from coming into the country.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll agree with you up to the point about 50%, because I believe like in dealing with both the supply and the demand, and I think we can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. So I'd say definitely work on the demand. Like in Nye County here, like we have a drug court. It's very successful. It's probably one of the top drug courts in the state of Nevada, the 5th Judicial Drug Court here in Nye County. And it's one of the best ones in the whole state, actually. And we do a lot of counseling and stuff. When somebody gets arrested for drugs, as long as their first time, one, it's mandatory probation, no prison time. I mean, that's just a statute, in fact. And then we try to get them treatment, whether outpatient or some serious cases for inpatient. A little harder to get inpatient because we're in a rural county and we don't have access to as many resources. So sometimes people have to wait for a bed. Yeah. And that's the sad part, because sometimes they got to wait 30, 60, 90 days in custody, because you don't want to let them out because they're going to keep doing drugs and get killed. They'll end up killing themselves, by doing drugs. So, but we have a pretty good system here to actually try to help people get off drugs. If you want, but you got to want to get off drugs.
But see, the problem is, there we go again. They focus too much on the getting off the drugs part of trying to help people. When it's not just about getting off the drugs, you have to look at what led these people to want to do these drugs to begin with. It's about doing something in our country, caring about the next person to where we can increase the quality of life for everyone, so people don't want to feel like they have, a lot of these people, and me personally, I'm going to share my personal experience. I come from a background. I've done drugs.
Uh-huh.
I've done, I've been involved in that, there are a lot of depressed people, a lot of miserable, sad people who don't have any family who they can call on, who don't have anyone they can trust. We don't have enough people reaching out. You see the people that see the drug addict walking down in the middle of the street, they avoid them, they dodge them, they treat them like, they're subhuman.
Right.
They're not, well, you don't work, you just like to lay around and do drugs. It's that type of mentality. I feel like that really does more to create the drug addict.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, I agree to a point. Like, okay, some people get like hooked on prescription drugs because they have a lot of pain. That's one thing. But the first time you use, I mean, you're actually making a choice. I mean, you're choosing to use. I mean, yeah. But
how many cases have you seen where medical doctors have mishandled prescriptions?
Oh God, plenty. But several doctors no longer practice in this town.
Exactly.
The Nye County Sheriff's Office ran them out of here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, especially things like heroin, because that usually starts with the opioids. The taking the pills. I have a friend who was a heroin addict.
Yeah.
It starts with that.
Yeah.
And when that doctor, they say that the doctors get kickbacks from the pharmaceutical companies, or, I don't know how they say it works or what happens, but when that doctor decides to continue prescribing someone something that they may no longer need, you need to look at another option. I know someone personally who had their whole life screwed up because the doctor decided to continue to give them opioids to mask the pain they were feeling.
Right.
See, the problem is, that's another problem we have in this world, in this country, and everywhere, is that people, they're always looking to mask pain or to hide pain, or pain is bad or shouldn't exist. Pain simply is. Yeah. Everyone who walks this earth is going to go through, experience pain.
Well, you got to you look at life like life is just one big struggle after another, and then no matter how hard you're working, the finish line for all of us is death. I mean, it's kind of a shitty deal at the end of it. I mean, you work really hard your whole life. Maybe you do the right things. Maybe you go down, you go up, you go down, you go up, and at the end of the day, you die. So, yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of, I can see where people get depressed about the concept. Because, I mean, you get older. I mean, I'm older now. I'm 53. You get older, and you know, you can't do the things you did when you were younger. Yeah, and then even though you maybe did everything right your whole life, you know, your reward is death. It's like, hey.
But thinking about it, though, you ever think that maybe we're doing this wrong, and that's why we feel this way? Maybe the whole system we have in place needs to be reformulated. A lot of people don't think, stop to consider things like that. We work so hard to keep up and maintain what we've already built that we ignore the flaws that exist in what we've already built.
Let me think about that. Okay, we work so hard to build up, we ignore the flaws. Oh, in other words, as we were going along, we created a lot of flaws, and we kind of just we forget about what maybe going back and like we built up like you build a house, but you messed up the foundation,
Yes.
but you just keep adding more floors to it,
Yes.
not realizing that you need to go back and fix the foundation, otherwise everything's going to collapse anyway.
That's what, and I feel
That's
what
good.
we're
I like
doing.
that, man. Hey, you know what? I'm stealing that. Sorry, man. That's mine, Marcus. That's mine now. It's like Marcus was like, "Hey, man, I said that." Like, I don't even know who you are, man. I'm just a race all
Hey,
day.
we're live on camera. I coined that phrase. You feel that?
Okay, that phrase belongs to Marcus. I'll give Marcus a shout out for it the next time I use it. But no, that was pretty good, man.
And that's the problem. And until we heal all of the bruising, all of the scar, everything that we have in our history, in our country, amongst each other, we're not going to get very far. We're going to continue to build this house, this structure on the shaky foundation, and eventually it's going to collapse. And the longer we delay, the harder it's going to be for us to recover from the aftermath.
Well, it seems like, and unfortunately, here's the problem. You get so caught up in your life and what you're trying to do. You're trying to make ends meet. You're trying to pay your bills. You're trying to, take care of your family or your friends or, like maybe your mom or dad or something. You get so caught up in that, it's hard to take that time to stop and reflect. But you're right, though. We need to do that. But it is, like you're just getting, and then all of a sudden, next thing you're right, though. Then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh, the whole foundation's going to fall apart. I'm doomed.
Everybody's running on a hamster wheel. That's what how I look at it.
I'm still in that too, man. Sorry. I got the foundation now and I got the hamster wheel. I like that.
Everyone's just, we're all on our own little treadmill, chasing our own little. It doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah.
There's actually this book that I have. It's. I don't have it with me, and I forget the name of the author. I think it's Frank Rivers or something like that. But it's titled "The Way of the Owl," and it pretty much says
The Way of the Owl.
The Way of the Owl. Yes.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
And it pretty much is a book that gives like philosophical viewpoints from the perspective of owls, from observing their behavior on how to deal with conflict in everyday life. And what it's pretty much saying is the more we worry rigidly about, ourselves, our bills, our this, our that, the more we focus on those things and the more we hoard and become selfish and the more we stop worrying or caring about the next man, it actually becomes harder for us to maintain those things and not easier.
Wow, so it actually gets harder to maintain the things that you're chasing after by hoarding and okay.
It does.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why.
Tell me, please.
Because the more you hoard, the more you become selfish, the more you stop thinking about the next man, the more it just, you think that, oh, well, I'm doing me, I'm getting my own thing going, I'm doing this. But when you're cutting yourself off from other people, people are the most important resource on this planet, regardless of how we look at it,
Right. Well, no, there are some people who think that we're like the worst resource on the planet. We all need to be, extinguished so that the other plants and animals can thrive without us being around. Well, that's kind of sad too.
You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I think those are people who died as plants and came back as people.
It's like, what are you people doing here? I was having a good time being a plant. What's wrong?
No, but it creates a more hectic, unsafe environment. People start to lose trust amongst each other. It becomes harder to achieve your everyday goals. You become disconnected.
Yeah. No, I mean that's right, because by chasing something so much and not taking the time to reflect, you actually have a harder time chasing after getting the things that you're trying to chase after.
You know, I know this goes back to kindergarten, but has anyone ever considered just sharing? That maybe we should, I know that a lot of people, especially on the Republican, conservative side, think that that's socialistic, viewpoint or communism. If I work harder, I should get more. I should, I had a conversation with someone who was like that, who had that mentality, and to me, it's like, I see to me, even though I'm independent, I see a lot of fallacies and the conservative viewpoint.
Well, I mean, the problem is anytime somebody's trying to get rid of that competitive nature, where they say, okay, look, we're gonna, because it seems like, for whatever reason, human beings are very naturally competitive. I don't know. It's hard to say we're conditioned like that because it seems like it's something from pretty young pretty young.
I believe we're conditioned like that. It's the world we live in.
Well, you
Actually,
see like 4-year-olds like
if
being
you study
competitive.
the history of civilization and you study all of the ones that have risen and fallen, I would actually say that humans are naturally cooperative. And that over time we've developed systems that have made us more, that have been more competition driven, especially with influence from European culture. They, to me, if you look, back through ancient times, they have the most competitive culture.
Talking Europeans, the most competitive culture.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
the
look,
countries in Europe.
but look at the results though. I mean, you got you got water, highways, bridges, universities. You have specialized tasks, which allows people to have abstract thought, which allows for philosophy, poetry, those kind of things. So I mean, if you have to spend all your time hunting and gathering, where you don't have a civilization and people have specialized tasks, and nobody's gonna ever have any time to put any thoughts down
But
to
they
paper.
didn't. They didn't just spend all their time hunting and gathering. The other civilizations, they had things. They built things. They had art. They had crafts. They hunted. They gathered. They fed each other. They cared for each other's well-being. One of us make it or none of us make it was their mentality.
Well, yeah, but I mean, European civilizations, they didn't seem to do a bad job at that either. I mean,
No, they didn't.
yeah,
They didn't.
yeah.
I can't make a blanket statement on any
Yeah.
entire group of people. That's not what but I was thinking more of like, the civilizations of Greece, the civilizations of Rome. If you look at the Middle Ages, you look at the United Kingdom, they really have created this very, very competitive world, starting all the way from imperialism, when all the countries in Europe were taking over different parts of the world, Africa, the Americas, over in Asia, all the islands out in the Pacific Ocean.
Well, I think what happened, if you look at it from like an anthropological, well, that's not even a word, whatever the word is, anthropology. If you look at it, the reason why, one of my famous lines from, I think it's Thomas Edison, necessity is the mother of all invention.
Yes.
Okay, so you have the Europeans, like, okay, they're living up in some really shitty ass place. So you got 4 seasons, versus like say in Africa, you're like living along the equator in the tropics. You don't have 4 seasons. You don't have to worry about storing food. Food's always plentiful. Water's always plentiful. Plenty of resources.
I've brought up this argument before.
Yeah.
The competition is driven in their culture due to the limited resources.
Limited resources. But what you also have, because of the fact that you had you had scarce resources, and you also had 4 seasons where you had to start thinking about how to store food and stuff. It started like it created a civilization several thousand years before civilizations were created, like in say sub-Saharan Africa, Western Africa, those places, because you were in the Garden of Eden in Africa. The garden. I mean, when you woke up in the morning, there was food right there. When all four seasons it grew. All 4 seasons it was water.
You're right.
So you never had to think about, well, gee, what am I going to eat tomorrow? Well, you didn't have to worry about it. There's plenty of food right there. Versus the guys in Europe, they had to start thinking like, hey, we got to store food up. So then they got to start assigning tasks to different people. And then the next thing you know, somebody's like kind of in charge, telling people what to do. And then somebody says, hey, who put you in charge? And the next thing you know, somebody says, we got to figure out a way to, decide who's in charge. Voting. Next thing you know, you got government. So, I mean, that's my opinion. That's kind of after looking at the whole thing. I figured that's why the Europeans were on a faster track with civilization, because they had to be. They had no choice. Other than that, we either hang separately or we either hang together or we hang separately. They had to figure out a way how to work together and form civilizations and form governments where somebody's in charge and who decides who's in charge in order to survive. And versus like people in other places where, like, say, even in South America, same thing. You're living along the equator, along the tropics. There's food. I mean, Amazon. There's food. Everything's there. You don't have to think about how to go get it. You don't have to form big, large organizations and civilizations and governmental structures. So, but I always think, I always figure like in Europe there was some guy like, 10,000 years ago who said, hey, who put you in charge? And they figure, well, how are we going to decide who's in charge? And maybe it's like the elders are first. And then it's like, well, no, that doesn't work out because they're old. So we got to figure out another way. So that's kind of how I've been looking at it.
I agree with you though. I look at it from that perspective too. But to think about it though, there are civilizations in other places too. There may have been a lot of hunting and gathering tribes in different areas in Africa, the Americas, but there are civilizations as well.
Well, yeah. You look like the Far East. But you look, they probably had this. They had the same kind of problems. The weather, the climate there is pretty nasty, like in China, like Mongolia, those places.
Well, a lot of their land is good.
Yeah, they have good land, but the climate is tough. It's a tough climate.
You're right.
So the same thing. The Chinese and the Mongolians and all that. They had to do the same thing. Figure out, okay, who's in charge. Like everybody, it looked like the Mongols, how they came across, Asia into Europe. Everybody thinks there was just some disorganized, rabble that would just kill it. But they weren't.
That's another problem.
They weren't. They were very organized. It was a very organized
structure. That's another problem. We all look at each other that way. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest problem in history that we need to overcome and kind of give everyone a certain amount of respect, because we all contributed.
Yeah, I agree.
To what we have today. And the problem is different civilizations, especially, like I'm part Native American, and when the Europeans came over here to the Americas, they didn't understand.
Oh, wait, Marcus, hold on. I got to get an ashtray. Hold on.
Do you mind if I get a cigarette?
Oh, yeah, hold on. Oh, no, you can't smoke out there. We get in trouble.
Oh.
Yeah. When we get done, you come around back, I'll give you a cigarette. Yeah, they're not supposed to smoke here.
Right.
Okay, I'm back. We have to be incognito here smoking because, everybody's against smoking and stuff. So, but anyway, Marcus, yeah, go ahead. You were saying you were Native American and you're
when the Europeans came over here, when you look at the history, you see them having a clear misunderstanding of the Native American culture. They thought of them as savages. They didn't understand how they had things set up. They didn't understand that they had organization, that they had culture, that they had philosophy, beliefs, that they were just as much people
right, yeah.
as they were. It's just that the language barrier and the complete difference in culture led to a breakdown in communication. The biggest problem I have with that is not only did they not understand, but they didn't even really make a serious effort to. They automatically looked down on those people as if they were superior.
Well, you got to remember the time when the Europeans were, like the Spanish were first coming over here. Like the Spanish were the first ones, the Mayan Empire. They went in there. The Inca Empire. They went in there, took them over. You got to look in the context. In Europe, what had just happened? They just got done defeating the Moors, ran them out of Spain. Is basically we had a whole bunch of unemployed mercenaries, soldiers running around out of work. I mean, it's like after World War I here in this country, or after the Civil War in this country. A lot of people out of work. They had no job. They, what do? All they did for 4 or 5 years was, kill people. So you had all these people out of work. They just discovered, Christopher Columbus and all those guys, they just came over here, found this place. They thought it was supposed to be India, but it wasn't. And it's like, oh, well, okay, we're here. And now they figured, okay, we've got to employ all these soldiers. And the Spanish, the king and queen really wanted to get these soldiers the hell out of there because they're afraid they might, rise up against them. So it was like, oh, here, go over there to this places and go conquer these people. But you're right, they did look down on them, probably because, again, they were more advanced than them, and they figured, well, if we're more advanced, then you must be dumb. Right? Because they were thinking like advanced as far as technology, like gunpowder, muskets versus, just like arrows and stuff like that. And even more advanced as far as like organization for like on how they fought. Because, the Mayans and the Incans, they fought. I mean, they weren't just all peace-loving people. Like, hey, we're all people. Like,
well, of course you're going to be more advanced at fighting when you've built a culture and lifestyle off of killing each other. I mean, that's just, gunpowder existed for, over 1,000 years before the first gun came along?
Yeah, the Chinese invented gunpowder.
Yes,
right.
And they didn't weaponize it.
Yeah, well, they kind of blew people up, but
they did.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the focus on making things into weapons was never like
Right.
And I also feel like that's a problem with a lot of European countries and problems with the world today. Even though all the countries are world today, but the European countries during the 1900s, like. If you go back to the time of Albert Einstein, and then a little bit later, the discovery of nuclear fission, the production of the nuclear bomb or the atom bomb.
Right.
That right there was an obvious display on why humans, we shouldn't really have all this knowledge.
Well,
because the first thing we do when we get something that could have been used for power, that could have been used for energy resource, that could have been used to better the world, what do we think to use it for?
Right, and unfortunately, that's another. If you take the context of it, we're looking like at invading Japan, and they're predicting 1 million dead Americans from that fight. Because based on how the Japanese defended Iwo Jima and then Okinawa, they're like, oh, this is going to be brutal. I mean, these people weren't going to lay down and die. I mean, everybody was going to be in the streets, behind every hut, doing. I mean, Okinawa, we lost so many men on Okinawa, is crazy. And the Japanese, they knew they were going to lose the island, but they still fought right to the death. Very few surrendered. I think it was only a couple hundred that actually got taken alive.
Now, you said how many will we have lost?
They predicted 1 million dead Americans in the invasion of Japan.
Get this.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Japanese, they're proud.
Yeah, very proud.
They forget nothing.
Yeah.
Do you think that they've forgotten what happened?
Oh, no. Not at all.
Now, that 1 million men that they predicted will die now, or will die then.
Yeah.
What happens when down the line, which I feel like is inevitable, is going to happen, when we're finally retaliated against?
By the Japanese?
Not even, it doesn't even have to be directly by the Japanese. They're going to take advantage over an opportunity if another country decides to make war with us, or if other countries decide. And right now, we're not setting ourselves up very well in the whole, our world image isn't the greatest.
Well, I would disagree with that. But as far as, well, you know what, then, if somebody's getting ready to take us out, well, in my opinion, we take them out first, man. We just send a couple of nuclear bombs over and blow them. No, I'm just kidding. But no. But anyway,
everyone's loaded with nuclear weapons nowadays, so you want to be careful with that.
Well, no, you got Pakistan, Israel, India, China, North Korea, Russia, blah, blah, blah. But I think I disagree when you say our image is kind of really bad around the world, because anytime somebody needs some help, guess who they call? Anytime somebody needs some money, guess who they call?
Because they know we'll come.
Well,
it's not necessarily that they look at us as good.
Well, no, but even food aid,
it's just useful.
We send more money and more food around the world than any other country, probably the next 10 countries combined, as far as U.S. food aid.
We also have a lot of involvement in third world countries. I'm talking about the modern countries that are kind of up there with us. Our public image, to a lot of their people, they don't look very good at the American citizen.
Yeah, but they all want to come here, don't they?
Well, that's what they say, but that's not true. I know a lot of people who actually want to leave.
Well, the number of people leaving versus the number of people coming in right now, I think last month, I think it was over 100,000 people came in 1 month coming across the border.
But the problem is a lot of the people that are coming aren't people that are doing well in their own country.
Well, they could be doing well if they stayed in their own country. And see, the problem is when, look, these countries down, the people who run these countries, they love the fact that anybody who's pissed off is not doing well, they leave and they come here. Because and they come here, then they protest and they get bitchy moany and they say, you're not doing enough for us. But if they stayed in their own countries, and instead of like marching in Phoenix, holding up the Mexican flag, if they marched in Mexico City holding up the Mexican flag saying, hey, you got to fix this system. Because Mexico has tons of natural resources.
You're right.
And,
you're right.
and they went and they demanded of their government, hey, fix this, and we're not going anywhere, and you're going to fix it. A million people showed up in Mexico City marching. Trust me, the Mexican government's going to pay attention. And that could happen. But the Mexican government loves the fact that anybody who's pissed off or feels like they're not doing good just gets to leave and come over here, and then come over here, and most of them do pretty good. So if they stay there, they can make their country better. And I mean, there's no reason why Mexico, with all the oil, with all the tourism trade, it can't be through the roof right now. I mean, it should be like this country. It should be doing better. It should have everything. It's got less of a population, but we're like the release valve. It's like it'd be like in this country, like if Trump said, if somebody's pissed off at Trump and he said, well, leave. He said, okay, they all go to Mexico. It's like Trump's like, yeah, go. I don't have to deal with you. I don't have to listen to you demanding things of me. You demanding better services. So that's the biggest problem. In those countries down like Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Mexico, they all like, oh, yeah, go. That way you won't be mad at us for not giving you stuff. To go up to the United States and then not be there for a few months, you can get mad at them.
Well, if you look at it, I was doing some research about a year ago. The United States as a country, I was looking at number ones, like, what are we topping? We spend the most on the defense budget. That's about it. Everything else that we're number one in is nothing good. We have the highest incarceration rate in the world. We're like the murder capital of the world. We have the most murders.
Yeah, but you know why we have the highest incarceration rate? And I do criminal defense, so I know this. We have the highest incarceration rate because we have the softest forms of punishment. If you go to China, they don't have a high incarceration rate. You know why? Because they know. You don't have. Harsh. You don't have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. There is no such thing. You don't have a right to counsel. There is no such thing. You have to talk. Even in England, a lot of people think like, oh, England is so great. Well, remember, we left England for several reasons.
Look at the crime rate alone, though. We have a higher crime rate.
Well, yeah, but that's because people know they can get away with it, and then when they go to the criminal justice system, they know they can plea it down, and they only have to do it like a year or two for something that maybe in China you do in 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, or you're never coming out. So, I mean, the problem is when we have as much freedom as we have, it does create a problem that people know they can get away with certain things, and they do.
We also have the highest obesity rate.
Well, that sucks, and I don't understand that because I can tell you're not fat, I'm not fat, but I see these young kids. This is driving me nuts. And see, and I be honest with you, I blame their parents because their parents are lazy. They just take them to McDonald's, right? Instead of cooking a nice balanced meal, you have your meat, or fish, or vegetable, or something. A nice balanced meal with plenty of nutrition, but not a lot of carbohydrates.
A lot of times it doesn't even matter about what they eat. It's what they're doing, their lifestyles that is really taking a hit. In this day and age, compared to even when I grew up as a kid and the people who grew up as kids before me, we played outside more.
Oh,
we ran around a lot. We did things.
We hated going inside when your parents said time to come in. It was like, oh, damn it.
Yes.
But now these kids, you can't get them out of the house.
Yeah. And they sit on the couch. They play video games. They're on the tablets and on the cell phones and on the computers.
Right.
And they're inactive.
Yeah.
They go to school. They don't participate in any sports. They don't they just go to school. They sit at their desk.
Right.
They might have PE, and a lot of them don't even participate properly in PE.
No, in fact, a lot of schools are cutting out PE.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But I don't know. All right. Well, hey, man, Marcus, thanks for coming by. And tell you what, we're going to cut off this live stream. And Marcus and I are going to go have a cigarette. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this live stream. And I'll be back later with another live stream in a little bit. So anyway, thanks. This is Carl's Opinion live from Pahrump, Nevada at the Silver State and Nevada State Chili Cook-Off. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys.